Alright, here is the video for mock quiz number 2 for polynomials. So, we have to find f of g of x, so I'm going to rewrite it as f of g of x. Now, we are going to substitute our g of x function right here, right into there. So we're going to get f of 4x minus 1. Okay, so now we're going to use our f of x function and substitute 4x minus 1 everywhere we see an x term. Okay, so it is going to be 4x minus 1 to the second power. Notice, right, we have a second power. And we are going to be adding by 20 because this one too is also adding by 20. Now recall, for x minus 1, you guys, to the second power is the same thing as doing 4x minus 1 times 4x minus 1. So, gotta distribute 4x to both of them, and you gotta distribute -1 to both of them. So then you guys multiply and simplify. So 4x times 4x is 16x to the second power. 4x times -1, -4x. -1 times 4x, -4x. And -1 times -1 is +1. So we're going to have 16x squared. -4x minus 4x, that's -8x. And plus 1. So that's going to be our 4x minus 1 squared. So when we guys go back down here, it's going to be 16x squared minus 8x plus 1 plus the 20. And that's all going to equal 16x squared minus 8x plus 21. And that's how you guys do 1a. All right, for 1b. Now we got f of g of 3. Now, let's see what g of 3 is. So g of 3 is equal to, now substitute 3 everywhere you see an x, right? So 2 times 3 minus 2. 6 minus 2, so that's 4. So we now know g of 3 is 4. F of 4. Now, let's use our f of x function to solve for f of 4. So f of 4 is 3, 4 to the second, plus 6 times 4 plus 4. 3 times 16 plus 6 times 4 is 24 plus 4. 3 times 16 is 48 plus 24 plus 4. And when you guys add that, you guys should have gotten 76. So there is function composition for number 1. Alright, here we have long division. So the denominator goes in the outside, so x squared plus 2x minus 15. And on the inside, we got x to the 4th plus 2x to the 3rd minus 16x squared minus 2x plus 15. Alright, so now x squared times what will give you guys x to the 4th? Well, I know x squared times x squared will give me x to the 4th. So now, once we have this one, we're going to distribute that to each one. X squared times x squared, x to the 4th. X squared times 2x is 2x to the 3rd. X squared times -15 is -15x squared. Now we're going to subtract the top from the bottom. So we are going to be getting, well, these cancel. -16x squared plus 15x squared is going to be -x squared. Now, do you guys notice right here we dropped 2 of them? So since both of them cancel out, that means we're going to have to drop both of these. So negative 2x plus 15. 2 for 2. Alright, so now it's the same question. This times what will give you negative x squared? Well, x squared times negative 1 will give us negative x squared. So now, once we find this number, now we're going to distribute. Negative 1 times x squared is negative x squared. Negative 1 times 2x is negative 2x. Negative 1 times negative 15 plus 15. We subtract all these from the top, and all these are going to cancel. So all we're going to get is a good big whopping 0. Alright, so our guys' final answer is x squared minus 1. Alright, for part B. Now notice, third power, second power. Where's the first power? Not there. Look down here, second power. There is no first power there either. So that means you guys need to put placeholders. So for the denominator, we have x squared plus 0x minus 1. And then for this bottom, we're going to have 3x to the third minus x squared plus 0x to serve as a placeholder. Now everything will match up from here. So what times x squared will give us right here? Sorry, what times x squared will give us 3x to the third? Well, 3x times x squared will give us 3x to the third. So 3x. Now remember, we gotta distribute this now to each one of these terms. 3x times x squared is 3x to the third. 3x times 0x is 0x squared, and 3x times negative 1 is negative 3x. So now we subtract. This is 0. Negative x squared minus 0x squared. That's just negative x squared. 0x plus 3x is plus 3x. Remember, you gotta distribute this negative to each term. You're subtracting. And then dropping down the 8. Alright, this times what will give you negative x squared? Well, x squared times negative 1 will give us negative x squared. So, negative 1. Now we gotta distribute this to each one of these terms now. Negative 1 times x squared is negative x squared. Negative 1 times 0x is 0x, and negative 1 times negative 1 is positive 1. Alright, we subtract now. Negative x squared plus x squared, that's just 0. 3x minus 0x, that's just 3x. 8 minus 1 is 7. So now we have a remainder. So our answer is going to be this top one, 3x minus 1, plus, now it's the remainder over what we're dividing by. And we're dividing by x squared minus 1. So in the denominator, x squared minus 1. And there's your guys' answer. Alright, so that's problem number 2. Now we are moving on to 3. Alright, so Justin, again, jumps off a cliff into the ocean. His height as a function of time could be modeled by the function h of t equals negative 16t squared plus 64t plus 192. Alright, first one, how many seconds? That's already, we don't know what t is. We need to solve for t because it's asking us for seconds. Next, it says Justin hit the water. So if Justin hits the water, that is going to be at a height of equal to 0. So now let's solve for this. So let me write down my equation. We know the height is 0. Alright, so let's I'm assuming all of these numbers can be divisible by negative 16. So we have to pull out a negative 16 because, first of all, I'm assuming all of them could be divisible by 16, or that's what I think, and there's a negative in the front. I don't like negatives in the front. So Negative 16. You factor out that. Negative 16 divided by negative 16 is t squared. 64 divided by negative 16 is negative 4, so negative 4t. And 192 divided by 16, you guys, is going to be 12, negative 12, so negative 12. All we did was factor out a negative 16 from each and every single term. All right, so let's factor this one. Ooh. Negative 12 is on top, negative 4 is on the bottom. What times what? It will give you negative 12, but when added is negative 4, negative 6, and 2. So we are going to have t minus 6 and t plus 2. To find our zeros, it's just the opposite of these guys. So t is going to equal to 6 and negative 2. But we're going to take this answer because you cannot have negative time. As a result, Justin will hit the water in 6 seconds. All right, part B. We have what is his maximum height reached. So maximum height, you guys, remember to find maximum height, that is the vertex. Negative b over 2a. So we have to find our vertex right now. So t is going to equal to negative b over 2a, and if you guys forgot, this is your a value, this is your b value, and this is your c value. So equals negative 64 all over 2 times negative 16. Negative 64 over 2 times negative 16 is negative 32, and 32 goes into 64 twice, and since it's a negative over a negative, it will be a positive, so it's going to be a positive 2. Now we're going to substitute that into the original equation. So 2, so negative 16, 2 squared, plus 64 times 2 plus 192. Negative 16 times 4 plus 64 times 2, 128 plus 192. Negative, or 16 times 4 will give us 64, so this is negative 64 plus 128 plus 192, and when you guys add this all together, you should have gotten 256 feet. So what was his maximum height reached? His maximum height reached was 256 feet. Okay, so there's that. Alright, for 4, we have factored form. So we first gotta find degree. Degree of 5, degree of 4, degree of 2, and degree of 3. Remember, when you're in factored form, that's when you have to add up all your degrees. So we're going to have 14. So 14, and right here, right, we're noticing it's a positive. So that means it's going to be positive x to the 14th, which is even, positive even, so then that means it's going to go up, up. Now, if you guys forgot, positive even is up, up, negative even, down, down, positive odd, down, up, and negative odd is up, down. So that's just something you guys will have to memorize. You're going to have to memorize those to know what your end behaviors will look like. Okay, so looking up here, if x goes to infinity, that means if x is approaching to the right, then f of x is approaching up. which means it's positive infinity. As x goes to negative infinity, which means it's approaching to the left, f of x is approaching up. And I'm strictly just looking at my end behavior arrows right there. So that means that one too will be infinity. Alright, y-intercept, I'm going to write it down here. So y-intercept, you guys, is when x is going to equal 0. So in my function, g of 0 is equal to 0 minus 1 to the 5th power, 0 minus 2 to the 4th power, 0 plus 2 to the 2nd power, and 0 minus 5 to the 3rd power. Negative 1 to the 5th power times negative 2 to the 4th power times 2 to the 2nd power times negative 5 to the 3rd. And on your guys' quiz, it's gonna fit the graph, so this was my bad when I actually made this problem because I didn't realize how big this was gonna be, but it's gonna be 8,000. So 0, 8,000. Now you guys have to find your roots and multiplicities. So I'm gonna erase this for now. Okay, the 0 right here, right? It's the opposite. So x equals 1, multiplicity of 5. That 0, x is equal to 2, multiplicity of 4. Here, x equals negative 2, multiplicity of 2. And here, x equals 5, multiplicity of 3. Alright, so if it's an odd power, you guys, okay, besides 1, then they will just slide. So multiplicity of 3, that's a slide, but multiplicity of 5 will also be a slide. So 3 and 5 are slides, you guys. Multiplicity of 7 is a slide, multiplicity of 9 is a slide, multiplicity of 11, all those are slides. Now, if it's an even power, these are gonna bounce. Sorry, not even power. If it's an even multiplicity, then it will bounce. Okay, now we have all the ingredients in order to graph this. So we have one at x equals 1, one at x equals 2, x equals 5, 3, 4, 5, and x is equal to negative 2. And we know it's going to go up and up. So let's graph. At x equals negative 2, I see that it is a bounce. So that means we're going to bounce off that 0. Okay, bounce. Now, since, sorry, but since 0, 8,000 is somewhere in the stratosphere, just gonna graph it like that so it reaches it. Okay, now, the next 0 we're looking at is x is equal to 1, which is right there. So it's gonna be a slide. So coming, and I'm gonna slide it right there. Next 0 right there, which is x is equal to 2, that's going to bounce. So when we come up on the 0, it will bounce off. And then x is equal to 5, it's going to slide. So x equals 5, it's going to slide. And there's your guys' graph for number 4. Alright, number 5. Now, this is in standard form. So in standard form, you guys look at the highest degree, which is going to be 4. So it's going to be the leading coefficient, and you just search for which one of these variables has the highest degree, and it's that one. So it's going to be degree 4. That means, and it's a positive, so that means a positive x to the 4th, which is up and up. Alright, let's find our end behavior now. So, as x goes to infinity, which means as it goes to the right, so look at the right arrow, f of x approaches infinity, which means it's going up. So that means approaching infinity. As x approaches negative infinity, which is approaching to the left, then your f of x is approaching upwards, which is positive infinity. Now the y-intercept, again, that's when x is equal to 0. So f of 0 is going to equal 0 to the 4th minus 2 times 0 to the 3rd minus 3 times 0 to the 2nd plus 4 times 0 plus 4. And all that's going to equal to 4. 0, comma 4. Okay, now we need to find our roots and multiplicities, and the only way we can do that is if we turn this into factored form. Rational root theorem time. So that's my P, and that's my Q. So P factors are going to be plus or minus 1, 4, and plus or minus 2. Q factors are going to be plus or minus 1. So that means my P over Q is going to be plus or minus 1, 2, and 4, all over plus or minus 1, but that's simply just plus or minus 1, 2, and 4. Okay, remember, these are all our possible roots. And since these are all our possible roots, now we have to go and use our rational root theorem to find our zeros. So, coefficients are 1, negative 2, negative 3, 4, and 4. So now let's find a 0. I'm going to substitute in negative 1. Or sorry, not substitute, but just guess that's 1. Negative 1 times 1 is negative 1. Negative 2 times negative 1 is negative 3. Negative 1 times negative 3 is 3. Negative 3 plus 3 is 0. 0 times negative 1 is 0. 0 plus 4 is 4. And 4 times negative 1 is negative 4. And that is 0. So we found 1, 0. But we are not done, because notice you can stop using synthetic division when we only have 3 of these coefficients. But we have 4, which means we have to move on. So, using those new coefficients I just found, we have to go find another root. Would it be 2? So drop the 1. 2 times 1 is 2. Negative 3 times... No, sorry. Negative 3 plus 2 is negative 1. 2 times negative 1 is negative 2. Add is negative 2, and 2 times negative 2 is negative 4. So there we go. Alright, so we found 2 roots, and now we finally have it to be a trinomial. So now we're gonna put this in polynomial form. So right here, you guys, remember this is the opposite, so it's gonna be x plus 1. This root right here we found, right? It's gonna be the opposite, so x minus 2. And now, here, remember the 1 to the left of the remainder, right? That's going to be your constant. So constant, x to the first, and x squared. So that's how we make it into our polynomial. Now right there, that's a trinomial. So now let's use the x method to factor. Negative 2, negative 1. Okay. Negative 2 times 1 will give us negative 2, but negative 2 plus 1 will give us negative 1. So let's rewrite this. X plus 1, x minus 2. Okay, you're going to keep these, right? Those are the ones we're going to keep. So we're going to have x minus 2, and then x plus 1. Now we finally have it in factored form, so now from here, let's find our roots, or our zeros. So I am noticing that these are the same, which means when I find those zeros, x equals negative 1, and since there's 2 of them, multiplicity of 2. And look at these, right? Both of those are the same, so then x is equal to 2, because, right, that will give you guys as your roots, because it's the opposite, and since there's 2 of them, multiplicity of 2. And we know multiplicity of 2's, you guys, are your bounds. So once we find that, now we can insert it into right there. And now we can finally graph. So there's 1, 0 at x equals negative 1, and x equals 2, there's that 0. and behaviors are up and up. So now, and also too, you guys don't forget to graph your y-intercept, okay? Which is at 0, 4. And now we can finally graph. So at x equals -1, we have a bounce. So right here, you guys, you're gonna bounce off, and then we're gonna reach right there. Now at this next 0, it's gonna also bounce. So bounce, and then oh man, there's your guys' 0. There's your guys' graph. All right. Good luck on the quiz, you guys, and study up. And I know if you guys study and try your best, you guys will be fine. So, good luck, everyone. See ya.